my speech. So basically I'm going to be talking about the gut microbiome and how that affects everything in your body, from obviously bowel movements, stuff like that, all the way to anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, other things along those lines, different neurotic disorders, stuff like that. So what is the gut microbiome? Basically what it is the bacteria that live throughout your intestinal lining, and they, like everything, kind of affect everything. There's other microbiomes, your skin is a microbiome, your mouth is a microbiome, etc., etc. What I'm going to be talking about is in particular the gut microbiome. Basically, what this fun little quote is, these perturbations in bacterial composition, although modest, were associated with major perturbations of GI microbiome functions, which revolve around metabolism in the presence of oxidative stress and perturbed nutrient availability during tissue damage. Now, that's a whole bunch of jargon that no one really cares about. What you really need to look at here is oxidative stress, which basically is just harmful. If you see oxidative stress in particular, it's just going to be harmful to any type of function in promoting homeostasis in that system. Now, an interesting thing here is nutrient availability during tissue damage. Now, for instance, say you have IBS, some type of inflammatory bowel thing that's causing you issues, diverticulitis, Crohn's disease, whatever. What that can actually do is make your nutrient uptake of different things, anything, different phytochemicals, whatever, more difficult to so anyway, so that's some of the interesting things that the gut microbiome has an effect on, and obviously this ranges from where you're raised, what you ate during your life, all that. Everything from, like I said, depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, those types of things. What I'm going to be focusing on more so, at least studies that I'm going to show, are going to be ones towards obesity, diabetes, Crohn's disease, and IBS. Again, that's just kind of an overview to show you that this does have an effect, or can have an effect, and the research is starting to show more so. These are some ways that you can biohack yourself. One of the main ones that people have probably heard about is probiotics, prebiotics, maybe not prebiotics, definitely probiotics. Interesting study from Takahashi in 2013, symbiotic, which is probiotic and prebiotic together, which is funny how most things, they work together, they tend to work better. D-lactic acidosis, don't really need to know what that is. Basically, it's just the pH level is raised, kind of making it more difficult to just do homeostatic functions. Short bowel syndrome, that's basically just IBS. Another interesting study that I found going towards probiotics was this. 34 to 42 people demonstrated beneficial effects. So some type of thing, bloating, nausea, whatever. From IBS was either resolved or at least somewhat lessened. And you're starting to see this in 2012. It's definitely blown up since like 2014, 2015. You're just going to start to see a lot more research come out of it. Diet, that's another one, diet and lifestyle. This is a very interesting one that I found. Everyone likes to talk about save the children, so on and so on. So I thought it would be interesting to throw that stat up. 60% of children who try to supervise ketogenic diet experienced 50% greater reductions in seizures. This is by far more potent than any other, at least far as a whole population goes of people, far more of a viable solution, medication. It's not really a medication, it's just eating higher fat, moderate protein, low carb, pretty simple. And this is in 2008. I think the one for adults was a little bit less, so like 40% with like a 50% reduction in seizures, so a little bit less, but still. Another one that I found interesting was the bottom one by Slav and Jay in 2013. This is going back towards the prebiotics, which a lot of people don't know. Onions, leeks, garlic. You can also go a little bit out there and go like acacia fiber and burdock root, but no one really knows about that. Everyone knows garlic, onion, stuff like that. Eat more. Stimulates growth in bifidobacteria and lactobacilli, which again just promote overall general well-being. Most interesting part that I found was the role in the endogenous cannabinoid system in the gut microbiome and how they have a particular affinity. From 2015 by Clooney, THC showed an altered microflora balance in obese mice. So they were able to feed these mice a normal diet that would make them fat, and it didn't. And you get this typical stoner association from consumption of cannabis. But you wonder why a lot of people aren't extremely overweight in particular. This might have something to do with that. Again, it's just shown in rice, it's preliminary. Mice, preliminary, so, but you should see these transfer over into human trials once they start to occur. Another interesting one was from Dr. Ethan Russo. Very interesting guy, you should look him up. He shows in the TRP1 nerve fibers, which is just a receptor site, cause visceral hypersensitivity and pain in IBS. Basically what that means is that symptoms caused by IBS, which I didn't specify this in particular, there is no medication for. There is some, but they don't tend to work ever. So that's why IBS, it's kind of, I forgot the word off my head right now, but it's kind of a disease that there is no targeted application yet, and these are going to be through endogenous cannabinoids can possibly show a way to affect this. I can give from personal experience, consumption of high terpene rich, full spectrum extracts, high in CBD. I had a flare up of diverticulitis. Basically what that is IBS, causing me a bunch of stuff. Thought I had appendicitis, had to go to the hospital, but it ended up not being. And through a regimen of that high in cannabinoid rich, which affects that nerve fibers right there, it alleviated a lot of my symptoms and helped with accumulation also of fasting, helped get rid of it entirely. Conclusion, more research is needed to quantify the microbiomic pathways, which if you ever hear microbiomics, it's basically normally going to be referring to gut microbiome, and how these control not only gut functions, but how they, again, affect things like anxiety, depression, neurological functions. It's 2018. I would say in the past 3 years, you've started to see this research into these start to accumulate, and it only gain with time. And when it does, we will start to see more control in dysbiosis, which is basically flare-ups and bowel stuff. So yeah, that's what I'll talk about today.